we're going to place in this the geometry of a simple semicircle. So where we have this, and then we need a diagram that will allow us to find halves and thirds. So where these hit, we have divided that into thirds. And what we need to do that is the two diagonals, and this gives us thirds. You see it? And then if we reverse it, run it this way, we get thirds that way. Well, we need that because I want you to measure the width of the neck into the width of the hole, and you're going to see it goes in 3 times. Try it. So I'm going to come here. I'm going to do this and that, and then I'm going to come down through the hole. I want to have that rectangle here, and I want this circle here, and I want this here. Now that is beginning to show you the abstract substructure of this bottle, and you can see that it's really a rather pleasing design. Now, there's something a little bit more difficult to believe, but I'm going to make believers of the lot of you. There is a triangle here, there's a triangle there, there's a triangle here, and there's a triangle there. And you're going to have a little difficulty seeing them. You can see there's a dead vertical here, and then it changes, doesn't it? Okay? And then if you assume this is the center, and this is the side of the notional space, you're coming through here, and you're coming through here, and you're coming through here, and you'd have a vertical there, a vertical here, a vertical here. You'd need another diagonal coming to this point, a horizontal there, and here, and there. Do you see it? Now, the reason that we're so concerned with all of this is that the light would fall on that plane and on this one. And if we were to draw this three-dimensionally, this would come down here, and this would come around from behind and over here this way. Remember, we're looking down on top of a three-dimensional element. Then it would come in on both sides, and we would have this recess. So that drops in, and then we're coming down longer here, and we're coming in through here. Well, if we come through like this, we can start to reticulate this. Do you see what I'm doing? We can start breaking this down into three-dimensional planes. So we would have a light on that. We'd have a light on this. This would be in shadow. There might be a cast shadow here, and the light would come back on. Each one of these tessellations would be a brushstroke. And we have to hallucinate. We have to imagine that on that soft, smooth surface that's all curved, that we've got planes. Well, they don't exist. But how useful it's been found to be by artists for centuries to break everything down into flat tessellations. They become brushstrokes. They become cuts with a chisel if you're sculpting. They become tessellations if you're doing mosaics. This has served everybody magnificently. But the civilian doesn't see this way, think this way, nor need they understand how this is done. But you, as art students, must, as sculptors, as painters, no matter what you're going to do, these tiny rectilinear elements or little tiny squares are central to your conceptualizing everything you see, from landscapes, seascapes, it doesn't matter what. And you'll see illustrations of the application of these Cartesian squares and grids repeatedly in this course. Here we are, and I'm dividing this in half, and then I'm going to divide these 4 squares in half, and then I'm going to overlap squares in this fashion and put in 45-degree angles, and I've created a cube in projection, suggesting the 3rd dimension, all right? Now, what I'm seeking to do here is establish the vertical, the horizontal, and the back to front axes of that sphere. So to get this point, I'm going to bring that here. And this gives me the back point, and now I have that. Now what I also have simultaneously is a plane. Okay? So now I'm coming here. Now notice I'm following the directions on either edge of this, and I'm connecting this. I now have that one, which is now a plane that goes this way, right? See what I've done? Then I'm coming over here, and I'm going to find this, and I'm connecting that, which gives me an element here. So if I come halfway down here, and I bring this over, and this over, and this one over, I can inscribe an ellipse there. If I bring this forward, and I connect those, I can create an ellipse here. If I take this and that over and connect these, I can come through here, and I have a sphere in a cube in 45-degree projection. You open up one side here, and you give it thickness. Do you see what's going on? And then you come here and you continue to open it so it opens in that direction. It is clearly looking in a given direction, and you can truncate this in a variety of ways. You see what I'm getting at? Or you can truncate them so that they're solid. So you've seen, but don't change idiom. And show me 3 faces of every form: top, front, and side. Every time, show me 3 faces. That's aspective, that's 3-dimensional, that looks illusionistic, that will work. If you've only got 2 faces, it won't convince. It may be correct. If you take a plane at eye level and you show it like this, well, that's a box. You see what I'm saying? But if you show it as a solid, it reads simply as a chevron, and its silhouette is a chevron, whereas this has a top, a side, and a front, and if you wish to open it up, it's clearly 3-dimensional. And I'm asking you to give it girth, too. I want it to have thickness. So if all of your forms have that kind of construction, you have the thickness there, this is going to work. Do you see what I'm getting at? Here you see he's light up against dark, dark up against light. You see how he's playing this light up against the dark? Everything is deliberate, probably overdone. But it works, and it works handsomely. If you can hallucinate, if you can think of every single facet of an object being broken down into flat reticulated planes, it is so much easier to render the value, because you can say this one is the highlight. Probably if the light's coming from above, it'll be brighter here, less bright there, and less bright here. So he's laying in brushstrokes that go like this, as if they were slabs. And they follow the form. This would come this way. He comes here and he drops these in, and each one overlaps, and he gets that brow to advance. He's coming down here, and he wants you to read that as the side of the nose, and here he wants you to see that this slab is coming down this way, and this one is turning this way, and this is the underside of that. Every one of these is following the form. See what he's up to. So we're going to say that our nearest bottle is zone 1. And I'm going to include white, but you'll have very little opportunity to use pure white paper. I'm going to run this from, say, a number 6 to a number 1 value. That's pretty contrasting because I want this to be quite light. I want my highlight here. I want that to be fairly light. And I want a fairly light halo running around the outside of it and passing through the bottom of this bottle to throw this forward. And this can be quite light because I really want to throw my zone 1 bottle as close as I possibly can. Then I can come in here, and that's light enough for zone 2, and I'm going to make it look lighter by taking a dark behind it, and that immediately lightens it, and I need a dark halo here to throw the top of this bottle forward because I really want that to stand out. Are you with me? So to make that look lighter, I'm going to lay a dark behind it, and here I can lighten that a tiny bit, and to make it look lighter, once again, I can darken this. But I don't want the degree of contrast that I have here. That I want to avoid. So I've got my light here, I've got my sphere, I've got a reflected light, and then I want a core of the shadow following the forms as it moves up. I'm coming back here, and I'm going to decide I want my tabletop to run there. So I've got 1, 2, 3, 4 horizontals down here, and just for the fun of it, I'm going to come in and make this a color that separates itself from the whole game and gives you some idea what the ground plane now is. I'm going to come in with this, and I'm going to say this now is the area that the whole background occupies. The problem is here, because this descending line corresponds with that, and I've told you I never want that to happen. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come in and shift that to this point, which will bring this over to touch there and to touch here. It'll increase that space. So reduce your bottles, arrange them, decide how much room you need on the left and the right, the top and the bottom, figure out what your square is and build a root 2. If everything fits fine, if you need to make an adjustment, make the adjustment. Nobody's going to see this rough and ready work you do now. And nothing prevents you from pushing around your tracings with Scotch tape on top of your grid. When you have it designed and you know it's working, you lay tracing paper over everything and you trace the contours of your 3 bottles and the coordinates of your field, which would be the root 2. This is how artists have learned to influence the response of the viewer in a subliminal, secret way, and it's submerged beneath the surface. So the arc now, or semicircle, can give us all kinds of rhythms and all kinds of relationships, because all of this is coming from the same tool, the compass. Another way of relating lines. There are straight lines, you can see them. And you notice that all of these edges are straight lines. The top of her head, her shoulder, all of this is straight lines, because it's easy to organize straight lines on a grid. Now, the Baroque diagonal would go from lower left to upper right, but it would go as an arrow from close to far away. And that's pretty dynamic. You see it? That's pretty dynamic. Now he's going to go from the center of this to the, from that, he's going to go down here to this. He's going to hit the center of that. He's coming here. The center of this is running through these and coming through this. We can hit this, it'll hit that. We can hit this, it'll come through the center of that, the center of this. If we hit this, it's going to hit the bottom of that, the top of this. These are all parallel. This is coming down and hits here. This is not accidental. These are coincidences, and they're deliberate, and they're on a grid. You're a little too curvilinear, and one of the things you wanted to do, and hadn't enough experience here to know about, was if you're able to take the leaf and find straight line elements that you can run through the whole and repeat. It's a tremendous advantage. Do you see it? And if you can have coincidences running through here as well, that is an advantage. Then you can soften some of this, and it is something that you can play against other elements where you're running parallels through the whole program. If these come from your rectangle, so let's say this is a root 4, and this is giving you, this isn't a root 4, but similar, all right? It's giving you the sinister reciprocal, it's giving you the Baroque reciprocal, it's giving you the Baroque diagonal, the sinister diagonal. Suddenly you have things to repeat along with your verticals and horizontals. So if you go back to giving a rigid straight line, the Chinese say every pot should have a bone. And what they're talking about is running all of these triangles. You see it. All of these triangles. So they have these intervals, and that means you can put them on the section. And we break this in half and find the diagonal of half, and I swing that from here all the way over and extend it. I now have one of the only times that the root rectangles and the golden section rectangles merge. Because what we have here in this segment is a phi rectangle, this animal. And what's left over here is a phi rectangle. In fact, we have 5 rectangles on either side of a square. But it is in fact this root 5. It is in fact the root 5. So we can use golden section calipers to find divisions as we could. There are all my knuckles. If I come up to my elbow, I'll get my wrist and my fingers. If I open it up, that's my navel, but I'm not going to show it to you this evening, all right? So this is pretty good. So we can make life easier. You see, if I come to my golden section division, this hits right here on the phi ratio. If I come over here, this is sloppy, but I'm not far off. Do you see it? And if I come over here, this was getting a little fat. I can chop it down. So I have a phi, and if I come in here and I draw a diagonal to this, and I come up here to that diagonal, I'm going to hit these divisions. This, if it came down straight perfectly, it would have fallen here. So you can take this, and it'll give you the square and the phi, and then it will proceed to give you every single division within that. And you'll see how artists like Cézanne and others employed these devices in their studios because they were so familiar with what they were doing. This allowed them a kind of shorthand approach to what was going on. This is a drawing by Harold Speed. He's an English draftsman, writer on art. He was a classical draftsman. And it's a wonderful example of what drawing is and why it has nothing to do with representing the real world. It shows that drawing is an entirely abstract vocabulary of symbols. Let me show you. Notice that this here ends here, and this is parallel to that, and what we have here really is a series of three-dimensional solids. Do you see it? This is the hand. I'm not going to worry about it. Here we come across the deltoid. We come down. We have a plane here. This would be the back. And then we come down to here, and then we can say this is the side. He's dealing with planes always. Always. Always planes. Everything is stylized. Now the beauty of this is, you know that you could say this is in shadow, this is in light, this is in halftone. Do you see how quickly that lends itself to describing a three-dimensional volume, then lighting it from a single direction and creating a greater illusion of the three dimension? Here and there and here and there, where these intersect, all of these are root 2s. So you've got theme and variation, and you've got the constantly repeated identical ratio. You have unity, harmony, order. You have variety. Some are vertical, some are horizontal. Some could even be diagonal. Not bad. Not bad. And in each one of these, if you wish, you can break down the whole program, and you can break these now into the theme of 3. This, we can say, is the notional space of the image. I'm not allowing any space around the object. So if this is a square, I might decide I need a little bit more space at the top. I don't need any more space on the side. See what I'm doing? This gives it a greater degree of space in which to exist. It doesn't seem so crowded. I could have truncated it, but I didn't do that. So if I come in here and I bring in my reciprocals, I can use this and that and this for the neck. Begin to see what's starting to happen. And before you know it, I have the image suspended in a root 2 rectangle. If I want to change it, I can change it.